War Eagle Auburn family, welcome back to another edition of E2C Network Live. It is Sunday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. You know what that means. It's not time for another live recording of the Auburn Experience podcast with myself, Kyle Loomis, and my co-host, albeit a different version of the way we look at him, Austin Scott. Austin, welcome.
Thanks, War Eagle. Yep, I've lost my facial ability, and so now I'm just a floating bubble. But in all seriousness, I have been battling something. I don't know if it's the flu. I don't know what, but it
The
has
big
been
one.
not good, and I do not particularly look great. And so I'm going to spare the people.
Well, Austin, I'd hate to say it, but I don't know that you looked that good before then.
Fair enough. Fair enough, Kyle.
So Austin was gracious enough to hang with us and do this again tonight. I gave him an out and said he did not have to do tonight, or at least I didn't probably say those words. I said, "Are you sure you can do this?" And he is being a trooper, so he will not be staying with us afterwards to chat. So if you've got questions specifically for Austin, get them in right now. We will start our live recording in roughly 4 minutes or so. And get this thing underway. Most of y'all know the drill. We'll remind you all of that in just a second. But right now, it's just kind of an open hello period. So post where you're watching from, the check-in time, city, state, international. Smash that like button too. We've got a lot of new people that have joined up with the channel over the last couple of days. So if this is your first time here on a recording live, or if you're watching the recording on the replay, we do this at 9 Eastern time most Sunday nights. Rarely ever miss one. So with that being said, let's check in and see who's all here. Chase says, caught it live. Chase, welcome. Belk, do you own Belk? Because if you own Belk, I need some help with some Christmas gifts. I'm sure Austin does too.
Absolutely.
Things are getting expensive these days. ACCSSI says, who is Jake Thornton? Any thoughts on Jake Thornton, the potential offensive line coach, Austin?
I'm pleased with it. I know it's one that Lane Kiffin did not want to let go, and so I think it's a good win for Auburn. And look, hey, I've always been under the, we talk about coaches and we all bicker about who we want, and then we get the coaches and we talk about how we don't want to interfere with the coaches and let the coaches do their thing, and then we talk about what coordinators we want the coaches to hire. So I'm good with whoever the coaches want to hire. If Jake Thornton's who Hugh Freeze wants as his O-line coach, then so be it, and let's get him on the trail and get to work.
Yeah, obviously, I think what I'm grasping from this coaching search, the assistant coaching search, is we're not going to have a lot of, I feel like, big names out there. This isn't the Brian Harsin needs to go out and find at the time, which was considered the slam dunk hire, Derek Mason and Mike Bobo situation, where even if you didn't like Mike Bobo, he was one of the bigger names out there. So to me, it sounds like we're going to have a lot of not necessarily smaller names or not. Help me, Austin. What am I thinking of here? It just doesn't feel like we're going to have I guess
the splashy
Thank
splashy
you.
hires. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, it was. Yeah, I'm trying to actually stay up to date on a lot of that right now because we put out a couple of videos detailing, at least because we can confirm that the D-line coach is for real because he was shown in a picture in Montgomery with the staff, and then reportedly from some recruits, the tight end coach was there. So I take that as firm confirmation, even though Auburn has not confirmed them.
right yeah now. And I feel like when last go around, when Harsin was assembling his staff, we were getting updates from Auburn every now and then. It feels like we're headed toward once it's all finalized, we'll put out one big thing, and that just might be how Coach Freeze wants to do things this go around.
And that's the weird thing about this, is kind of following how differently this might function, because even though the sports information department will likely stay all the same, for now, because usually they stay on. They probably have to shift gears to what the coach wants how he wants to operate those type of things.
Well, lots of off the field people, creatives and video and support, analytics, recruiting, all that changes. That's we talked about it a few weeks ago. It's a lot of people whose jobs are in the air who aren't getting $15 million buyouts. So
right,
yeah, lots of changes.
Chase says that his family was a family business. Belk was part of that, but now it's corporately owned. So shucks. I
No.
get asked all the time if I own the Loomis banking trucks. I would not. Let me put it to you this way: this setup would be a lot better if we had that company. Austin right now would have like a stand-in double paid for, where he could just like broadcast his voice over them, just so that he wouldn't have to worry about
Yes.
how sickly he looks.
Scott toilet paper is the one for me. That's
Scott,
what we get asked about.
and there's no relation whatsoever.
Not that I'm aware of or have seen any money from.
Real quick, Russell, yes, we are celebrating over 3,000 subscribers, well over it. I mean, these last couple days, y'all have just taken it off. So thank y'all so much for being here. So we are at the 6-minute mark now. So we're going to go ahead and start moving towards what we normally do. Again, if you're new here, how we operate on these Sunday night shows is I'll put up the reminder right now. Just want to as a reminder, as we go throughout, that we are recording a podcast, that technically we're not going to be taking any comments or questions. Every once in a while, we might see something in there we might address live. Just hang out with each other, talk about what we're talking about. And then at the end, I will stay after and just hang out, kind of like a mini Wednesday night show, not taking any callers or anything like that, but we'll just talk about what you guys want to discuss. So, Austin, if you can hang in there for 30 minutes, we're going to get this done, Mr. Sicko.
We'll hang in there. Let's get it done.
All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. David Housel said it best: the whole of the Auburn experience. It includes a wide variety of things across sports, academics, people and places. Yes, in Auburn, but all around the world. If you want to just put it down to the most finest things, it's all about sports. It's all about our culture. And it's all about our family. And because this is about the Auburn family, we need to always have one of the Auburn family members here on the show with me, my co-host for every single episode of the Auburn Experience, Mr. Austin Scott. Austin, welcome, and hang in there, buddy, because I know you are feeling it tonight.
War Eagle Kyle, yeah, feeling under the weather the last few days, but glad that we can still get this done and be on episode 15 of all things. And it's as sick of as I've been. It's been a pretty calm week in the Auburn Experience world, right? Like nothing big has been going on, nothing on the
Nothing.
volleyball court, not on outside hires, nothing like that.
No social media controversies, nothing. I mean, it
No.
has just been the most quietest end to the football season and getting towards the fall sports season ending overall that you could ever have. I mean, gosh, actually, the only true thing that we're saying there is that soccer didn't have a great year and they've been done for a while, which is a shame. But wow, I mean, football and volleyball said, yeah, our season's ending, but boy, are we going to go out in fine fashion and have you guys talking about us. So that's what we're really going to start off with tonight. Yes, as we alluded to and hoped on episode 14 that we would be discussing, was a coaching hire. And yet we continued that awkward prom dance as we discussed it with Lane and everybody else. Hugh Freeze is your head coach. We're going to talk about that, but hold your horses, because we got to talk about something else that we don't get to talk about a lot. And we've done some here. And here is yet again me taking responsibility for Auburn volleyball taking their first ever loss in the year. And I kind of vicariously feel like we caused them to lose this game as well, because we've been giving them so much attention. Austin, Auburn volleyball makes it to the second round. And I know most people are like, what is that big deal? Well, this is only the second time they've actually made the NCAA tournament. Upsetted, I always call it Crichton. It's Crichton or Creighton, Austin? Is it Creighton or Crichton?
It's Creighton. Yeah, Creighton.
I say Crichton because of Crikey or something like that. That's what every time I think about. But they upset number 4, Creighton. They're the host team of that particular regional, or however it functions there, and nearly took down yet another team in an upset fashion in Houston. Had to go all the way to 5 sets. What an incredible run, Austin.
No, you're absolutely right. And I feel like a lot of the times the statement I'm about to say gets used toward a team in a negative way. But it really felt like Auburn was just happy to be there. Like you mentioned, the second time they've ever made the NCAA tournament in their history. Our friend Clint brought up, I thought, an incredible point it's really the first time ever Auburn volleyball has worn the NCAA patch on their jerseys because the last time they made it, that wasn't even a thing happening yet. Like, that's
Leave it
how
to that man.
far right? How far and few in between Auburn volleyball has made it to the NCAA tournament. So they really were happy to be there, and then they go out in their first game in the host city on the home court. They take them down, and it was just incredible to see. And man, I really thought they were going to get it done against Houston. Got up 2-1, and just couldn't pull it off. And Houston is also a nationally ranked, incredible team, and they end up going to round of 16. But what a year for Auburn and for Coach Brent Crouch and for such a young team. We've talked about it at length before about this volleyball team and how people need to jump on it now because they're young and this kind of success is going to be what Coach Crouch expects from here on out. And so it's going to be really exciting. And what a fun year for Auburn volleyball and for the Auburn family to kind of rally around a sport that people don't talk about quite as much.
Well, and I was about to say rightfully so. That's not the correct way to say that. There is something to that. You've got to give fans something to latch onto. And this is not a dig at previous coaches and previous players and anything like that. But there really hasn't been a lot of like long-term sustained success. As we talked about, this is the second time they've been to the NCAA tournament. But here's the thing I will say about whether it's collegiate athletics, whether it's about pro athletes, whether it's tiddlywinks out there, put something with successful Auburn people on top of it, and Auburn fans will show up in droves. I mean, we had what I thought was a great crowd travel out to, was it Omaha, Nebraska that they were playing out, Austin? I believe
Yes,
it was
that's right.
Omaha. Great crowd. The cheerleading, or at least some of them, team decided to surprise them by showing up to cheer for them. I mean, it was so nice to hear them on the broadcast out there, having all that they do during, any kind of sporting event, those type of cheers and stuff.
Right.
Tiger walks, and they weren't small tiger walks at the hotels as they would walk to the court for each of their matches. I mean, it was so cool to see Auburn fans throughout the season, but also for this tournament, really embrace this, whether you could be there or not. Because that's all people were talking about last night. They said, you know what, forget these college football games. Auburn volleyball is on TV right now in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, absolutely. And when people mention Auburn, and we can credit Coach Bruce Pearl for kind of bringing this on. Mention Auburn as an everything school. It doesn't necessarily mean that Auburn is everything at everything they're the best or at everything they're winning championships. But at Auburn, unlike a lot of places, at every sport you're going to get support, and we saw that up front and close and personal with volleyball, and it's really exciting. But I wish I could say it surprised me, but it doesn't. That Auburn people, like you said, when something happens, they latch on to it and they fully support it with everything they've got. And so it was a reassuring moment, I think, in a week that was quite divided in a
Mm-hmm.
lot of areas for the Auburn family. That even something as small at Auburn comparatively is volleyball. That we all got behind it, and then we all were excited to see Auburn succeed on the national stage.
It is such a great thing to watch the Auburn family continue. Like you talked about, it's not a surprise anymore. It's more of a that's what's supposed to happen. And so when you continue to
Yep.
see it happen, it's just a reassurance of how awesome this family is. Do we have our weird divided moments? We displayed that this week. But wow, when we come together, we come together. And so proud of this team. It is, like you said, it's a young team. We're going to get to watch them grow up if they all choose to stay together here. We are probably, Austin, going to go from a time where, correct me if I'm wrong, it is free to get into volleyball games, most of them right now, if I'm not mistaken on that.
Yeah. No, that's right. That's how I understand it.
We might be talking about a situation where you actually have to start paying to get in there. Now, that may be quite a bit of a step out. I get that it has to compete with, football and everything else that's going on. But there's a lot of times that they've had some really good scheduling on football weekends. We might be talking about some really packed houses for some volleyball matches next fall, and I cannot wait for it.
No, yeah. I mean, like you said, you and I have both talked about the scheduling, and sometimes that's not as inopportune that seems to happen with different sports and certain weekends at Auburn. But I mean, it wouldn't be something that would surprise me if we start seeing that interest in volleyball grow as much as it did gymnastics or as much as it did softball, for a short period when they were contending for national championships and how that's kind of had sustaining power. And so it's exciting. It's really exciting. And just hats off to that coaching staff and those girls for representing Auburn and competing so well. And I hope they felt the love of the Auburn family this week and throughout the season.
Yeah, I'm sure they did. The way that people embraced them on social media, in person, those that were able to travel. It came across my desk for, people that wanted to travel from the media out there. And I was like, has this ever happened before to the, invitations to come out there? I'm like, can I pull this off? Like, if it wasn't, in the middle of a bunch of crazy weeks here, I probably would have gone in a heartbeat out there, because how often in Auburn's history do you get a chance to go into the NCAA tournament and watch that? I mean, volleyball's a real fun sport to, especially in person, to watch with all the spiking and
Yeah.
stuff like that. It's a basketball like type of situation. If I had to, this is probably a poor description, so please don't don't make fun of me too, Matt. It's almost like baseball meets basketball to me, where you have a lot of situational things being set up, and as soon as the ball is hit, so to speak, like, in baseball with a bat, but here with their hands, it's all bets are off. Things are just flying around and happening. It's a really exciting sport, and really excited to see Auburn's future in it. So congrats to Coach Crouch. Congrats to these ladies, the staff members, everybody that's involved. We are so proud of you guys. Can't wait to watch the rest of your future here in the next couple of years. Let's move on to our next big topic. It's the thing that most people are wanting us to discuss on this show. It's the thing that we've been teasing since episode 13, that we finally be able to talk about it. And yes, it's about a week old now. So I think most people are like listening to this episode, y'all acting like this is new news. No, we do a weekly show. So we got to, catch things when we catch them. And it would be just like Auburn athletics to make the big announcement the day after we record, wouldn't it?
Oh yeah. And I mean, I think we even said on the show last week, by the time you listen to this, it's very well possible all of this is moot, or all of this has already happened, or all of this is now being finalized. And that's about exactly what happened last week. Mid-morning, I guess. I can't really remember exactly what time, but they sent out it started breaking. The press release went out, I guess like 5 o'clock or something like that, Kyle.
Feels
Is that
about
right?
right. Yeah.
And so, not even 24 hours after we record, Auburn finalizes their deal to hire Hugh Freeze as their next head coach.
Yeah, it's something I think in the twist and turn nature of reports, and I have this source and stuff like that, that just kind of went all about every which way it could. Lane train all the way is what it sounded like, and that came to a screeching halt. It seemed after the Egg Bowl, and especially on, I would say that kind of started turning on the Iron Bowl weekend, or the actual day of the game, as the game progressed. And then by the next morning, we started having real firm discussions about, is Hugh Freeze the guy? Then all the stuff that was discussed this week on social media. So I got to ask, Austin, at the end of the day, are you shocked that Hugh Freeze is your head coach?
No, I'm not shocked. I really thought that from the beginning this wouldn't really get past Lane Kiffin and Hugh Freeze. It just kind of felt natural that those two were the options, strictly speaking, football at this moment. That those were the options that would get Auburn back competitive quickly, and that made sense from a cultural fit standpoint. Um, and that's kind of where we ended up. Lane
Yep.
Kiffin, as you said, didn't work out. The train fell off the rails, so to speak. And then Hugh Freeze ends up being the head coach. And from strictly football, and we have talked at length about the non-football things, but from strictly football, I don't think Auburn could have done much better or worse. I think that it just worked this out really well from an offensive schematic sense, and from a the way college football is now in an NIL and transfer portal sense, that Hugh Freeze makes a lot of sense to get Auburn back on track quickly. I thought it was really interesting this past weekend that on College Game Day they had segment where they kind of spun a random wheel of questions, and whoever was up next, it was their turn to answer the question. Well, Kirk Herbstreit spins the wheel, and his question is, what first year head coach for 2023 will have the Lincoln Riley year, as in bring in all the transfers and have immediate success? And he said Hugh Freeze at Auburn, no question. And so I think that kind of tells you that's what Auburn's trying to get right here on the field, on the football field, is bring in the talent, bring in the exciting offense, and get back to having success that Auburn people expect on the football field.
Yeah, it really checks a lot of boxes that the people had. Now, we had all kind of built up, as I've already said, the idea of Lane Kiffin being the head coach. And I guess I got to ask this question. Do you think that Lane Kiffin was the number one choice? Because if you listen to, A.D. Cohen, the number one choice always was Hugh Freeze, and they were just going through the vetting process and making sure that no other candidates interviewed better or showed up better once they went through that process. Do you think Hugh was the number one or Lane was the number one?
I don't want to call AD John Cohen a liar, and so that's not going to call him a direct liar. But I do think that it is. I do think that every time I watch a brand new head coach press conference, is the guy they got was the number one. That's what
Yes,
seems to be the company line.
it is.
So my humble opinion, I'm going to say no. But I do think that if we had a similar 1A 1B situation
Right.
here. But if we're putting bullet points ahead of each other, I do think Lane was ahead of you.
Yeah, listen, that's us outside looking in. They know the process, we don't. So it's not us calling them liar. It's just kind of, well, we're only operating off the information we have. Lane seemed to check most of the boxes. But here we are with Hugh Freeze. Freeze warnings, ironically, around the country start coming in about the time that he gets hired. And now, actually, it's kind of warm here in Marietta where I am. But it's going to be interesting. This feels like a little bit of return to form in a sense of Gus Malzahn-esque, same type of coaching mentality, demeanor, values to, really for the most part. And it kind of feels like we went back to where some familiar territory already has arrived. So, Austin, your thoughts on good thing, bad thing? What's your thoughts on that?
I think it's a good thing. I think this is kind of the way, this is the kind of area that Auburn has kind of carved themselves out to be, is to have an exciting offense that resembles kind of things that go quickly. And when we've tried to divert from that in the past, it hasn't worked out well. And I don't just mean in
Mm-mm.
Brian Hartson instance. I mean, even we go back to 2012 and Gene Chizik trying to kind
Yes,
of
thank you.
shift to pro.
Oh,
It just hasn't worked out well, and that's just not the nature of the sport really anymore, right?
right.
And so I think that it's worked out better for Auburn to go back to that kind of forward thinking in terms of how the game is played. As far as values, I'm sure that word is going to cause a bunch of people to shift in their seat regarding Hugh Freeze specifically.
That's why I said it.
And fair enough. And I think you've seen throughout the week pointing questions, Coach Freeze, and him answer those to the best of his ability. You might not like his answers, and that's totally fine. But I think he also recognized that, and I thought he put it at a great point when he said at the end of his press conference is that now he was speaking to about recruiting at Auburn, wasn't special, but I think it points to himself as well, and the questions about his character is you just going to have to wait and see. You're just going to have to come to Auburn and see how this thing gets moving, how Coach Freeze gets moving in a role, in a position that is much more elevated again, and if he's deserved that, and I think that he understands the magnitude of the position he's now
Right.
in and the questions that people have against him, and I think we should all be hoping that he does understand that and he gets those things and he has had those things corrected in his own life, and that we all benefit from that, because if he, Coach Freeze and his family benefit from a changed lifestyle, Auburn is going to benefit from a changed lifestyle, and we all want Auburn to succeed.
No, I completely agree. And this kind of analogy came to my mind this week. And I think we discussed it on our Wednesday night live stream. And when I say this, because this is going to get people stirred up now to jump back onto the Brian Harsin hating, and that's not what I'm trying to do here, but because when he made that video, or the AU Productions, who continues to make me cry all the time, stop it. What are you doing? But they made their intro video, the saying that we all kind of had fun with, especially after he was fired, is just watch. Well, when you
Yep.
hear Hugh Freeze, his catch line, not in an intro video, but so far, is come and see. And so I find it interesting that maybe I'm digging way too deep into something like that, but that's what I do. I mean, I'm a content creator, so I got to create content sometimes out of nothing. But to me, one was a command, a declaration. You have to do this. One is an invitation. And so I think that's what Hugh has done. He's invited you to come and see my team, come and see my program, come and see me, and see if I live up to the things that I, say that I've changed in my life. And so to me, that's a very hat in hand type of way to approach this. And I value that a lot. Not to say that Harsin meant it that way, but it's just those two sayings kept ringing back and forth in my head about how different this era I think is going to be. It's an invitation, which I think will draw more people in over time, as opposed to just watch. It's more of a, for lack of a better term, arrogant
Sure. Yeah.
way to
I
approach
think
it.
that's a great I think that's a great way to put it. And I think it's going to be a slow kind of unification of the Auburn family. And let's be honest, not everyone is always going to, or not everyone is going to eventually jump on this train, and that's fine. I think, and as much as I hate to say this, the way I'm going to say it is, I think as success on the field happens, more people will be able to join on and jump on that and put those feelings aside. Now,
Yep.
those feelings about what has happened off the field with Coach Freeze, I don't disregard those, and I think there are
Absolutely not.
certain individuals who absolutely have a serious and righteous concern about it. And I'm not saying you shouldn't. I'm not saying that you need to just agree with it because he's a good coach. That's not at all what I'm saying. But I think that we are all have sort of a somewhat obligation to be able to see how a person reacts when they're put back into a position where they failed before. And that's where we're at. And so we'll see. We're all going to watch and see at the same time. And for me personally, I'm really hoping, of course, that on the field success comes for Auburn football, and then we can get back into the conversation like this weekend of the college football playoff and being in conference championships. But I personally really am hoping to see success off the field and in the personal life of Coach Freeze, because I'm a sucker for a great story and a
Oh
happy ending,
man.
Kyle, and I think that to see that kind of what's the word I'm looking for, to see that kind of rebuild and to
Yep.
see that a life change like that's something that we should all be very excited for, regardless. When someone so publicly ends up failing and embarrasses themselves and has hit rock bottom, that they're able to climb their way back up. And for me, that personally, that'd be an exciting thing to see, and for Auburn to benefit, then all the more.
It's something we all should be hoping for ourselves, for him. And in many
Yep.
ways, it's the Auburn story of finding a way to pick yourself back up to heights you never thought that you could reach in the beginning.
Yep.
All right, well, let's round out our show, Austin. We've talked a lot of sports, and as you and I talked about when we conceived this show, sometimes we talk a lot of sports here, and we're going to continue to talk about sports. Let's be honest, but I like to just mix it up every once in a while and just chat it up about something, tying it back to Auburn. And I get the feeling that we could talk about this particular topic. You have no clue where I'm going with this, by the way. This is like scary for you.
Zero.
I
Yeah.
think you're going to be fine with it, though. I have the feeling that we're going to have a lot more things to discuss, especially sports coming up. So we will table maybe some discussions about like assistant coaches and things like that, and basketball. That's going to be kicking into high gear here too. Very, very, and it's already going, but the discussion part of it. Let's talk about Christmas time at Auburn, or just for the Auburn fan, and things that come to mind with that. Because obviously you, as an Auburn resident, have the chance to partake in some of those you weren't able to because of obviously being sick right now and still trooping through here with us. But I also, think of some other things around Christmas time at Auburn. For those of you that are watching the live recording, so sorry for those of you on the podcast version on the audio only, there's, somewhat Christmas lights back here behind me. So every Christmas I put these out for you guys. I'm going to figure out a better way to put them up. Do you got any Christmas like Auburn lights specifically, Austin?
I don't. I guess I'm looking at yours. There's your Christmas Auburn lights, just orange and blue
Yeah, they
alternating
don't
lights.
show up as well. Nah, see, it's always mirrored on the camera here, so this is great audio content right here. But so it's a blue and an orange. It doesn't show up as well because of the lighting in here. In a perfect world, I have a different studio where the wall is pushed back a little bit. This is the stuff y'all wanted to know, right? Where those are more in shadows and you can see them light up a little bit more. But yes, they are actually licensed Auburn's. Well, they say Auburn specific. It's got a logo on the box, but there's nothing Auburn on them specifically that says Auburn outside of their colors. Maybe like it's the exact shade of blue and the exact shade of orange. I don't know. I'm looking at them now. To me, it looks a little bit Florida blue, but that's
Yeah.
neither here nor there at this point. So no Auburn Christmas lights for you, sir?
Not that I can think of Auburn Christmas specific. I'm trying to think about if we ever had an Auburn Santa Claus growing up or anything like that. The only thing that comes to mind is my senior year at Auburn. I came home for Christmas break, and my dad had gotten his Christmas tree. We had real trees growing up. My dad had gotten his Christmas tree and had set it up in his living room and went to work, and he had not decorated it or anything like that. And I was home, and I thought, well, I could decorate it for him. And this was, I guess, a couple weeks fresh after beating Alabama in 2017. And so I said, I started to get the ornaments out. I put a few on the tree. I'm looking through the Auburn ornaments we had. I'm obviously prioritizing those first. And then I just decided, well, why not just drape some toilet paper over this thing and wrap it around the tree? And so I, I started at the bottom, wrapped it all the way around, went all the way up, and didn't finish the roll, but made the rest of the roll and just kind of put it on the very top, and that was it. And he seemed to like it. I think he might have thought it was a little bit lazy approach to decorating the tree. But it certainly had an Auburn flair, and we kept it up like that for the rest of that year. So I was pretty proud of it.
So let me make sure I'm hearing this correctly. You literally rolled your Christmas tree, Toomer's Corner style.
Yes, that's
Wow.
exactly right.
That's commitment right there, sir. Now, what happens when your tree gets poisoned by an Alabama fan and then suddenly it's dying? Like, do you have to string up little things across the living room like they did across Toomer's Corner for you to roll? Is that how that works?
You're talking about the wires that
The
we had to
wires that
roll
did
for a
not
couple of years.
work.
What a
Yes.
horrible idea. And look, I'm not hating on those individuals because
They
were
did
in
what
a
they
really
could.
tough spot and had to do what they could. But oh my gosh, those wires were absolutely terrible.
Yes. That's what I'm imagining now. And here's what I also imagine is like little Harvey Updike. Well, I know this is not controversial to say, may he rest in peace. I don't wish ill will on anybody. So that's going to get some people fired up that I had the audacity to say that. But I envision someone like him sneaking in a Santa outfit to put the presents under the tree. But then actually, as he like turns around, like in full view of a camera or something, it's got like an Alabama A on it. He's like putting poison in the water under the tree, or he's cutting the wire under your artificial tree. That's what I
Is
imagine.
he in a bright green furry suit too?
Yeah.
As the Grinch?
Yes, that's more like it. Not Santa at all. It's the Grinch. Literally, that's all it is. So forget, you're a mean one, Mr. Grinch. You're a mean one, Mr. Updike, is what it should be for Auburn fans. That
We'll get
Thank
I'm
you.
forgetting his name.
Yes, Son of Crow.
You're
Son of
about to
Crow.
say yes. We'll get Son of Crow to make us a new song.
Drew Croson, I think, is what his name is.
Yes, yes. That'd be
That-
perfect.
So here's what we're gonna do right now. At Son of Crow 2, I think, is on Twitter. I need people who are watching live, especially, to tweet him and say, we have a request for you to make an Auburn specific Christmas song, to the tune of the Grinch, but about Harvey Updike and Alabama fans. You're a mean one, Mr. Updike, or something like that. That would work really well. That's a way that you can really tie all of that stuff together. I can't get that vision out of my head now. But I'm also ashamed, Austin, since we're just stuck on the top of lights and Christmas trees here, that I've never thought to roll my Christmas tree too. And now I'm highly tempted to go down there as soon as we're done here and do that myself and see what my wife thinks. It's a brilliant move.
It looked really good, I thought, and I was pretty impressed with it. Now, I will say that that is not what Auburn University does to their Christmas tree that's on Sanford Lawn. That stays up year round, by the way.
Yeah.
I wouldn't. They do not roll their Christmas tree, but they do have a big lighting ceremony and things like that. And did you go to that in college, Kyle? When they would have?
Austin, you can take my Auburn card. I never did that. I'm sorry.
Oh, no free hot chocolate and cookies.
I know. I'm sorry. And didn't they used to do obby claws in front of it? Isn't that how it used to go down?
They did. Obby Claus is a big deal now, though.
Yeah,
You
it
gotta
is.
register and pre-register and all the things. But we went a couple of times to the lighting to snag some free cookies and hot chocolate, but
Of
it
course.
was always hot chocolate at like 72 degrees outside too.
But see, look, as a starving college student, as I wasn't starving, but I was always
Exactly.
searching for the next free meal or snack. That would have been right up my alley. I can't tell you, Austin, how many things and events I went to with no intention of signing up or joining or anything like that, just because I knew they had free food. Like that was like my MO. So
As every
cookies,
college student should.
yes. Cookies would have been right up my alley. Especially if they were chocolate chip cookies. I know everybody likes these Christmas cookie things. You know what? My wife is really good at making those sugar cookies with like the really decorative icing. Like I bought her like a kit one time for Christmas. She should make some Aubie ones now or something like that. Christmas cookies with like Auburn things on it. You could even like do a Christmas tree one with the Austin TP toilet paper running up and down.
Yeah, there you go. I
I'm
think that's
also
what
Go ahead.
I think that's what if you can add a little Auburn flair to any Christmas tradition, then why not?
I'm also envisioning now because you said you put the toilet paper roll with the end of it on top of the tree. Is that what you did?
Yes, yeah, like
Uh,
on the stem at the top where people would normally put their stars.
or angel or whatever. So where there's
Yes,
supposed
yes,
to be
yes,
something beautiful and bright, you put the end of a toilet paper roll. That's
yes. And I
that's in,
I might have written the final score of the Iron Bowl that year on it. I can't remember if
okay.
that's true or not.
That's fair. I will accept that now. But here's what I need you to do this year, next year, whatever. I need you to actually make like a paper towel, a toilet paper roll star. Like, take one and put little stars off the end of it as I do it off screen here live. you know?
Oh yeah, form it, origami it into a star.
And if you want to get really good with it, then you string some lights through it to have like one light come out of each end of that toilet paper roll star. And then you have become the ultimate Auburn Christmas tree person.
You and I are nowhere near creative enough to get this done.
Speak
But
for
we were
yourself,
creative
sir.
enough. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm not sure that now, that was in my college days and also my single days. And I'm not sure as a married person that has no really say over whether or not the toilet paper rolling of a tree is allowed or not anymore. I'm not sure that's going to fly.
Yeah.
And as we've mentioned, my wife's also pregnant, and I'm not going to cross her on a Christmas tree rolling right now. So I'll pass. When I
Yeah.
have some backup with the two boys next year, maybe I'll go then.
By the way, have you announced that it was two boys here? I know we announced that you're having, kids, but like, did we announce it was two boys here?
I don't know. I don't.
Well,
Maybe not. Now that you said that,
breaking
how about that,
news.
Mike? Breaking news mic drop. It's two boys.
Two boys, little Christmas gift
You're right.
news.
I don't think we did because we were talking about if they were to play a sport at the same time and if they were both one on men's basketball, one on women's basketball because we didn't know yet. So I think you're right.
Yep.
Yeah, two boys.
Well, that's how we're going to end the show there. Breaking news for Austin again that he's having two twin boys. So congrats to Austin on that. A little early Christmas knowledge that you guys can celebrate together. So that was a fun
That's
little
right.
topic. I had no clue where it was going to go. And I'm so glad that it did because I had no clue that someone rolled their own tree for Christmas. And now folks. I'm probably betting someone else has done that. But we'll put like a question out on social media and see if anybody else has rolled their own indoor tree for Christmas. So
Yeah,
all that being
indoor
said,
tree.
All that being said, we have discussed a lot. Volleyball, new head coach, more of that going to be discussed on future episodes and getting us started on the Christmas season here. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to episode 15 of the Auburn Experience podcast with myself and Austin. Austin, where can they find you if they want to talk some more rolling trees, Christmas trees in their own house?
Yeah, I'll try and find a picture of it so I can show people proper technique and maybe do a tutorial video. But
Oh,
Austin G Scott is where you can ask for all those questions and send me your own rolled trees if it so inspires you.
yep. I would also try to do that, but I also am trying to play it safe with my wife too, just because I don't want to make her mad at all. And if I've already done some things on the outside of my house with lights that make me rival Clark Griswold, I think I'm pushing it. So none of that for me right now. With that being said, thank y'all so much for being here. You can find me on Twitter at not at Tiger Eye, at Kyle Loomis 24 if you want to talk some more. We appreciate you hanging out with us for this episode. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.
War Eagle, everybody.
And we're out. All right, Austin. Your voice kind of sounded weak on that that last one there, so
Yeah,
I'm gonna let
it
you go.
it was it's getting there. I was wondering how much longer it was gonna last, but thanks
You made it,
everybody.
buddy.
And
All right, Austin.
we
Thanks
made
for
it.
hanging out with us.
All right, see you guys. War Eagle.
War Eagle. All right, Austin's gonna head out. It's just gonna be me and you folks hanging out for a little bit here. I'll put this up because I always like to have something next to me to tell you guys what we were talking about or what this is supposed to be about. Okay, so what would y'all like to talk about? I can stay on for, I don't know, I mean, to 10 o'clock here if y'all want to. It depends on what our conversation gets into. I saw a lot of you were talking about this. Scotty brought up Alabama not in the playoffs, and they are not taking it well whatsoever. They are not taking it well. Excuse me, I get all choked up now at all. God, what was the thing that we tweeted out today? They tweeted out their invitation or whatever graphic, I guess the Sugar Bowl gave out. I guess it's the Sugar Bowl that they're going to, right? Whatever bowl they're going to. Yeah, because it was in French. And we tweeted out, that's French for excuses. No excuses, but only when we lose, because that's their whole saying when they go through the locker room. No excuses, except when they lose. So that's been fun to watch that meltdown happen. And it's been a joy. A lot of you are celebrating that. Chase asks, getting right to the point, who do you think the DC will be? I think the DC needs to be a big name. Let me address the second part before the first part. I'd love to have you guys' opinions on this. I'll be honest with you. I have actually tried to stay up to date with what's actually happening and not so much on the speculation part this time around. I don't know if I just got burnt out on it with the twice we did it with Brian Harsin, but and also it just seems like, as we talked about before we started recording with Austin, that it seems like Coach Freeze is keeping this at least close to the vest for now in terms of official announcements and things like that. My gut still tells me we're going to get at least some tomorrow in some type of way. Monday is always a big news cycle. The ones that we know about. I'm not saying the DC or an OC. So in the statement of does it need to be a big time hire, I was on board with that. I'm actually kind of starting to back off. Does it need to be a big time hire? And I guess that is relative because some people would think Travis Williams, the former Auburn player and former Auburn linebacker coach, now with Gus, would be a big hire, and others wouldn't. It's all relative. I was kind of on board with that. That needs to be a big hire, and I think probably still am to some degree. But yeah, so in terms of asking or answering the question, who will the DC be? I don't know. I've seen, we had someone tell us that Barry Odom would be in conversation for that, the former Mississippi State head coach. I think he's with Arkansas now. So I really don't know. I'd love to hear what you guys think about that. And then in terms of OC, yeah, I don't know. I know that's the boring answer. I know some of y'all come here specifically for that information, but I don't know. I'm really just kind of following the tea leaves because it all seems like we're still in the stage of floating names out there at this moment. Any word on Luke, the former Mississippi or Ole Miss head coach? Can't think of it. Matt Luke. Matt Luke is his name. Yes, that's who that is. I heard his name floated out as the offensive line coach, but it seems like the report is today that the new guy, what was his name? can't remember now. It's all the way at the top of the chat. Jake Thornton may be that's the report that he'll be the offensive line coach. So when I get some more, if that's true and becomes more evident, I will put a video out about kind of the similar that I put out to yesterday with the defensive lineman, Jeremy Garrett. Today we did tight end coach. Let me see if I can get this right. Ben. Oh, I can't do it. I had it on the video right. He's got a difficult last name for me to say. You don't want to watch me butcher that and embarrass myself. Yeah, they'll probably do. Corey, I've had a lot of people say that they don't want Barry Odom, and it's not that I would want Barry. It's just a name at the very beginning I had thrown out there to me. That was so okay, Russell. That's a good thing to bring up, and I talked about this with Jeremy Garrett's video that he was actually under Chris Kiffin at the Cleveland Browns, where he is now. So that would be a really cool thing to have that happen when you were trying to get Lane Kiffin, and then have them be coaching against each other. Essentially, it would be unique, wouldn't it? Have two Kiffins in the SEC, one as a head coach, one as a big time DC. So if you want to go back and answer the question, who would you want as, or do you think it needs to be a big time name hire? Would that qualify for you guys? Chris Kiffin? Maybe. Let's see here. Don't we have two OCs? Don't we have two co-OC and co-DC? Not necessarily. One of the reports says that those two co-OCs would be brought over from Liberty, but there's the only thing that I'm finding so far out of all of the reports that have validity would be Jeremy Garrett, because he was photoed in Auburn stuff with the other Auburn assistants. And then today, Ben, I mean, I can pronounce his name right now. Hold on. AIG. I'm not going to do it. Go watch the video if you want to. I actually pronounce it properly, I believe, there. He was actually reported at a kid's house. So that was confirmation enough for me. So as soon as we get some hardcore stuff about this offensive line coach, I'll put something out about him. Just trying to use discernment on that. I heard that Kiffin, as the DC candidate, is not a great recruiter. Well, if that's true, that's why you surround yourself with great recruiters as your assistant coaches. And, you know, Hugh Freeze is known for being a pretty good recruiter himself as well. And that's pretty much who they come for most of the time, who the head coach is, because they like what their program history has shown that they can develop into under their tutelage and their staff's tutelage, despite who's there. So, yeah, everybody's going to have their strengths. And I know that you're probably a little gun shy with that because of, you know, the assertion that there was not a lot of good, not a lot of normal recruiting tactics being employed by Harsin and his staff. So you want the little brother thing to go down. That'd be funny. Are you being funny with his last name, the DJ guy from Clemson? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of people bring up DJ Ugalala. I can't pronounce difficult last names to spell, much less say. I thought the thing around him was he was very inconsistent, especially for what his hype was. To me, it sounds like we're going to be pretty set at quarterback for now. You got Robbie, who seems to be very excited about what he can develop to under Hugh. Zach Calzada for now is still in the picture too, so don't count that out. And then you got Holden, and you got Adrian Passe, who would be coming in the next recruiting cycle. Feels like we're kind of set for now, but who knows? This is a crazy world we live. The Mississippi State DC, who is that? That's not Diaz, is it? Is that Diaz? Former Miami coach? Charles Kelly. I feel like I should know this one, and I don't know this one. A lot of noise being surrounding Keldrick Falk, who committed to FSU, would be a big flip. Yeah, so that was one of the things that was discussed when he committed earlier this year, is that don't sleep on this kid flipping his commitment, which you hate to have that reputation if you're a recruit because no one's going to really trust you. But yeah, if there was ever an opportunity to flip someone that was already prone to being flipped, now is the time with a new coach, a new scheme, a new feel. So there's going to be the noise that you're hearing may simply be because they know he was supposedly going to be prone to flipping, and this has probably increased that chance higher than it's ever been. So there may not be any real noise around that. Zach Arnett. So I don't know anything about Zach Arnett other than how did they do defensively this year? I don't feel like they did great defensively. DJ will probably transfer to UCLA since he's from that area. I don't, maybe set at quarterback is not the right way to say it, but we have plenty of decent options. Robbie needs a lot of development in the passing area, which I think you could probably do for him. But he can also utilize his assets that he has in terms of his legs really, really well. Probably much better than he would have under the previous staff and even interim stuff. Calzada, I think, has had obviously injury issues, but I think he's another guy who's shown he can move a little bit too and might fit well under Hugh Freeze's system. Maybe being set is not the right way to say it. We've got a lot of options that could probably work out really well, but it is the transfer portal era, so we'll see what happens with it. Diaz? Did I say Diaz? Diaz? I mean, it's basically the same thing, isn't it? Sorry. Rumor is Wesley McGriff is coming back to Auburn, DB coach. Yeah, listen, it has been wild watching this guy. He came to Auburn, left, came back to Auburn under Gus Malzahn twice, and then, I think he was even rumored to be coming back again during Harsin time too. See how that worked out. Charles Kelly is the co-defensive coordinator for the team we don't talk about. So Bama? I'll say their name, UAT. Do we want Bama boys? The crime dog return. Listen, so let me say this about the Deion stuff. Like, you're already seeing guys say they're going to commit. People are reacting to the hype of seeing that commit, but they're forgetting that's a 2025 guy. It's a long way from that. Here's what you are going to see the recruits fly in. You are going to see the culture you're going to see the culture completely change there at Colorado, which has been, I can't think of the last time they were actually relevant to the conversation. It feels like it's been more than a decade. Shift dramatically simply because he is who he is. That doesn't mean that it translates over to Auburn. That doesn't mean that it translates over to the SEC or any other Power Five, bigger program. So I hope he does have success. I think I would love to see him build up a team like Colorado. I think we are overdue for some parity from the West, and it would be nice to see him do that. So if anybody can do it, he's going to have a much easier time proving that he can be a program builder at Colorado because they're starting from a pretty low place with a name that's had some good history as well. Recruiting on the way up, consecutive top fives, hopefully. Top five what? We haven't been in the top five forever recruiting. Am I confused on something? He wants to be a DB coach, but a cornerback. Well, DB is basically the big term for cornerbacks and safeties. So he would still be a DB coach even if he did just cornerback. So that's going to be the question: is how do you keep Zach Etheridge if you're planning on keeping him, which it seems like you are, and if you bring in a Wesley McGriff, do you spread them out and do cornerbacks and safeties as one coach or two coaches? It'll just depend. Got a lot of probably salary but salary room. 14 interceptions, 18 points per game, with an offense that's a boom or bust. That's good. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Well, the stats, sometimes do a lot of thing for selling a defense. So If that's the case, then maybe we do need to give him a look. I am wide open on coaches right now. They did, to me, they have done what they needed to do, that being Hugh Freeze and the rest of his other staff. Keep Cadillac. Keep Cadillac. I think they did a good job if it holds true that they're keeping Christian Robinson, which we've seen them out recruiting already, and Zach Etheridge on the staff as their respective positions. I think that's good for creating continuity. It's good for two younger guys that are coming on up. They're going to be able to connect better with the kids. They're going to have, Zach's another Auburn guy, one offensive, one, well, actually both of those are defensive now I'm thinking, but you kept Cadillac as the offensive connection. So I think they did a good job. He can go out and get basically who he wants now. Jordan, let me say this because we know that Miss Ash, well, I don't know if her name's Miss Ashford, but Robbie's mom watches this a lot. And so when I say this, I always want to be sensitive that I know that the players watch this. I had a basketball player tell me not too long ago that they watched the show. That was really unnerving. So you know who you are, by the way. And it's not that I don't think he's the future or don't think he's the future. I think Robbie's got a lot of things that he knows better than anybody, and his coaches know that he's got to work on. And I think he's got the talent to be able to pull those off. I just don't know what else is going to be on the table. Like you asked the question about a transfer card from Texas or Zach Calzada or whoever else in this crazy transfer portal world is going to come available. If someone the caliber of Bryce Young comes onto the table and they want to come to Auburn, do you tell them no just because we've got somebody here that has done a great job of putting together some semblance of a quarterbacking job in an abysmal time? You at least say, yeah, give him a look. I don't know. To me, I just don't feel good about saying he is the future or he's not the future because so much could change. It's such a crazy world that we live in right now. Hillbilly. I completely agree that they will start winning, but it's very easy to do when you haven't been winning. That was kind of my point. Let's get T-Will. I listen, I love T-Will and I love my Auburn guys coming back to be here. It's just, yeah, I know some people hate that. It feels like kind of I think they call it the good old boy mentality where you just keep staying with some of the old stuff. I would love to have him back. But I would also understand if Hugh wants to kind of now, since he's gotten two Auburn guys, go get exactly who you want and don't just if it's T-Will, bring him on in. If he's proven himself, we'll see. Yeah, and I think that's kind of what I was getting at too. T-Will, their defense playing with lesser talent has had some issues from time to time. Who was it? Was it Corey? Was it you? No, it wasn't you. Someone in the comments of the basketball post-game live stream was dropping all of the toothpaste references. That was dad joke central there for a little bit. All right. We're pushing about an hour here. Don't have to run just yet, but let me use this time really quickly to remind you what's coming up. So as of this moment, the only scheduled live stream that we have for this week would be the Wednesday night live stream. So don't miss that. However, that's at 8 p.m. Eastern time, call-in show. I might start a few minutes early. You never know, but 8 p.m. is the scheduled start time that we will have set for that. Later this weekend, we're going to have an Auburn basketball game, a big one to talk about here in Atlanta. I am actually hoping to be there. Actually, hold on. Let me make sure I've got this right. Is it this one? Georgia State is next Wednesday. So yes, we've got this Saturday, the men's basketball game here in Atlanta against Memphis. We will do a post-game show. If I'm there, it'll be probably about 30 minutes to an hour after that. If I'm not there, we will do it immediately after that. I'm also trying to get Ben scheduled for a final show with him for this football season, recapping the year. And I know it wasn't fun to recap, but we kind of need to put a bow on it and put it to rest. And I'm sure he wants to offer his take on Hugh Freeze and stuff like that. So that should be coming up as well. If you haven't subscribed, folks, a lot of y'all have been doing that. We are having this giveaway going on right now. It's a prize package, including a signed Auburn football on our journey to 5,000 subscribers. We hit a big mile marker of 3,000 here recently. You guys are a big help in that. You can become a channel member, Booster Club member. Check out all those other links for ways to help support our content. But if you don't want to do any of that, all you got to do is just be here, drop a comment after this live stream on that comment section, and smash the like button. Those are free things that you can do if you don't want to contribute to the financial ways, but we just appreciate you being here. All right. What other comments, questions? Get them in rapid fire, just in case it's not till Wednesday that we get together again. But like I always say, stay subscribed, stay tuned, because you never know when we'll be going live with some of this stuff. If we get a big OCDC hire before Wednesday, you can bet I'll probably go live. Just saying. Let's see here. I think Auburn. Wait. I think everyone wants to put this football year to rest. Yeah, and that's why we're going to do it one more time. The completist in me has to do some type of end of the year show. We didn't do the Iron Bowl post game breakdown and grade because how could you on a day where Hugh Freeze was hired and everything that came with that. So it was really out of necessity that we didn't do that. Cliff Kingsbury, that one comes up a lot, but doesn't he have his own personal issues? Isn't that right? I feel like we've discussed this before. You brought this up before. I think you need to find some real squeaky clean guys to come in just to meet all that at the pass. Well played. Well played. All right. I think we have hit all the high points on things that y'all wanted to talk about. Thank y'all for being here. I will see you this Wednesday at 8 p.m. In case it doesn't happen before then. But I appreciate you guys so much for being here for this live recording, hanging out with us, spending some time with me and Austin, and just being part of our little family within the Auburn family. You guys are the absolute best. And I forgot to not take that banner down. But seriously, we do appreciate you guys so much for hanging out with us. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.